Hi, everyone. Carmen Dinisco here on UAI TV. We got the third of the innovation show going on, and we got some awesome guests coming on today. First, I want to bring on, I don't know if she's my co-host or not, but she's here all the time. She's awesome. Juli Shively. Juli, what's happening?
I'm your stalker, Carmine.
I noticed that. Sometimes I just wake up and you're on the screen.
I know. Well, thank you for hosting these shows, by the way, Carmine. I'm not sure I thanked you in the previous shows, but I really appreciate it. And actually, I can say this week, not as much going on, so I'm excited about that. Innovation World is prepping for the next Global Innovation Field Trip. We're working with great folks like Lexa, being one, tonight at the Innovation World Alliance. And just looking for what to do next. Oh, look, we have a couple of inventors have joined us, or innovators have joined us today too.
That's awesome.
Hi, Casey.
Hey, Julie, it's hard to think about you, how busy you are thinking of what to do next, because you always have something happening. I mean, for you to be thinking about that, that's crazy.
No. We have something. I'm actually plotting some things for next summer already. We're looking at doing some youth conferences. We have all sorts of adult conferences out there, and I'd love to put together some innovative youth conferences that we can all be a part of and help support. So when I'm saying I'm not doing anything, I'm not implementing anything new this week, but I'm thinking about what I'm implementing going forward. So.
No, that's great. And, we our two guests that we have on today are very, very active, not only with the UIA, but with helping inventors. So this is a good show to talk about that kind of stuff. Maybe put them on the spot and ask for their help in doing some of these things.
That sounds great.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we can bring them on. We have some of the invitees joining while we're talking, and like you said, this is recorded, so we will just go from there. So we'll bring on Lexa Gandolfo, who is very active with the UIA. As I mentioned, she's an inventor herself. And then George Peters, who is also a very high-ranking inventor. He also runs a club, I think, out of the New England area, and he's also the inventor of a pretty cool idea, and I'll let him kind of explain on that too. So Lex and George, what's happening, guys?
Hello, Carmine.
Good.
Thank you for having us. Pleasure.
Yeah, no doubt. I guess, George, let you go first. I mean, we see in the background your invention. I didn't want to kind of give it away. I'm, as Julie knows, pizza lover. So why don't you talk a little bit about, what's going on, your background, and then your invention to our listeners.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I've been an independent inventor for 25 years. My first product, I was awarded a patent for in 2003, April 1st. So I caution everybody, watch out getting a patent issued on April Fool's Day. It's a big signal of what's about to come. That was a utility patent. My next patent was awarded about 5 years later for a safety product. The product you see behind me, Kettle Pizza, Al Contarino, a very talented and friend of mine. Him and I were talking one day, and he says, I have an idea to cook pizza on a grill. And as you know, for innovators and future inventors, that's all you need to say to someone is, I have an idea. What do you think? And let's draw it up. And Kettle Pizza, quite simply, we turn charcoal and gas grills into pizza ovens. And the picture you see behind me was kind of the probably the highest recognition that we've ever received for Kettle Pizza. That is at the White House in 2019. We were asked to come to the White House with people from 49 other states that made products in America to show our products at the White House at the East Wing. It was a very nice event, and certainly for being a independent inventor for 25 years, Al and I, it was great to be recognized that way. So that's me. I do a lot of work with the UIA. I run the Inventors Invent in New England. I've worked with many innovators over the years and tell them my story, which I Carmine and Lex will tell you I have a story just about for everything that's happened to me. And if I can help any of you going forward, have my contact information, my cell phone number, you call me anytime. Hopefully I can at least tell you what I went through to maybe, keep you from stepping in a lot of the holes that I did. So thank you very much for having me.
Great. And as George said, a lot of things that he's leaving out. I mean, George, we could go on. George has some awesome stories. We could go on for hours with George and the things that he's done. Let's hear from Lexa, same type of thing, background. Lexa, did I pronounce your last name right? I've never really called you by your last name.
Well, there's not that many Lexas, so you don't necessarily have to go any further. But yes, my name is Lexa Gandolfo. I'm the inventor of Cargo Caddie, which you see behind me. I'm much more novice in as far as all these types of things as compared to my partner George here. But I am quickly getting up to speed through my work with the United Inventors Association, currently working on redesigning a complete and total redesign and development of the website. The new one to launch this fall, and it's going to have awesome resources for independent inventors, youth, manufacturers, prototypers, anyone involved in the innovation space. So we'll make sure to let your crowd know about it, Julie. But it's going to be a great destination for innovators of all shapes and sizes. As far as my product, I started designing it probably about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. What the idea is, it's a shelf for SUVs and CUVs. Typically, these cars have very wide trunks, but also very deep and tall trunks as well. So a lot of that space is unusable. This device behind me allows you to subdivide the height of the trunk in order to give users a new level or a second level of storage space to put grocery bags, water bottles, sports equipment, camping equipment, anything that they have that can kind of keep above the floor of the trunk. So I invented the idea. I thought of the idea years and years ago. I have kids now that are older, but when they were younger and I had a stroller that was particularly difficult for me to carry things around, but it's still just as difficult with all the sports equipment and backpacks and groceries and all that type of thing. So in large part, I invented this because I needed one myself. So I'm in talks right now with a company about licensing the product, reaching out to a couple other companies to see if they're interested. So that's the route I'm looking to take is licensing versus manufacturing, bringing to market. And I'm happy to at least share my experience or try to answer any questions that you guys might have about doing just that. So thanks again for having me.
Oh, awesome, Lexa.
Lexa also was very humble. She also had her own website development company for 12 years, which she forgets to mention sometimes. So if I get my dollar every time, so I remind her about mentioning that. So it's worth another $1, but she, which is the key, as all of you know, I didn't know anything about a website or anything like that. The website certainly is your front door to your business, and having a well done one and done by a professional, if possible, is how people see you first with your product. So, Lex, I get my $1 now. I remind you about you being an entrepreneur early on with having her own business for 12 years.
Yeah, that's huge. Sure. So while you're jumped on there, let's get a couple of the questions. Are like one of the questions, the product that you have now, this version, how many iterations did you go to? Were there major changes, updates? I mean, from your first prototype, if you made that, how long did it take to get to the version that you're at now?
Early on with Kettle Pizza, Al really wanted to manufacture the Kettle Pizza in the United States. And that really helped us quite a bit early on as we made changes to it. The first one, I think Al made out of, siding. just to try to get the design down and the openings down. And Al did a lot of work with CADs, and we could actually make a few ourselves early on and try them. And because we didn't have to send them overseas, we stayed local. We could have a few made, we could try them, we could make running changes to the kettle pizza during its life cycle quickly and know if it worked or not. And every one that we changed, I'd say we went through, probably a good 6 or 7 different ones before the one you see behind it. We made that one shorter. We actually got smart enough to put our name on the front of it instead of the very first ones we had on it said hot on it. We didn't want to get in trouble by anybody putting their hand on it and getting sued. So then somebody said, hey, why don't you put your name on the front of that? We'll put our name on it. And that we could do quickly. And even making it shorter than the original one, because we had some people, we would send our product out to barbecue people, grilling people, and pizza people to see if we were matching up temperature wise and how it was done. So we brought in a lot of people that were in 2 different industries to get information from them. And so our customers helped drive the design also, because as we were doing it, they said, oh, if it was a little shorter, you'd throw more heat down on top of the pizza. And when we did that, when we took it down 1.25 inches, it did a couple of things. It brought more heat down on top of the pizza, because you have to cook a pizza top and bottom at the same time, and you can't flip it over like a hamburger on a grill. But what it also did for us is it changed the size of the box kettle pizza came in. So what happened is that we were able to get more units on a pallet. We were able to add, I believe, another 8 or 10 boxes on a pallet, which enabled us to ship more product. So there's always a ripple effect when you're making changes to your product, and it's good to document them all. And we, to this day, kettle pizza is still made in the United States. We've sold it to people in more than 70 countries around the world. Everybody likes pizza. They just put something different on it in someplace else. But we were able to do it because, there were local shops. We could try that out. It was critical to us getting to market and making the kettle pizza, to what I always call the golden sample, the one you're going to sell to your customer. That's the one you want to get it to. And and it's constantly evolving. Listening to your customer was very important.
Wow. That's awesome. That's great. It really is. Ranjit, do you have a question for Lexa?
Yeah, I do. So you mentioned that your product, you'd created it because you had a need, and so you wanted to create something to help. And so I'm also working on a project that I created to help my brother and my dad. But I'm just wondering, how did you do research and figure out that your problem is a problem that a lot of other people are having, and that your problem could potentially be used for a lot of people in different scenarios and stuff?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So some of it was anecdotal to begin with, because I had this idea so long ago that I was able to just sort of talk to other people in my position, other people like me who had the same sort of needs and that type of thing. But then when I decided to actually execute on the idea versus just bopping around in my head, that's when I started doing research on search engines and specifically Google, just to see how many times that particular search phrase was used. And there's tons of cool tools out there to allow you to see how many times a particular phrase. So what's the project you're working on, for example, Ranjit?
So basically my brother and dad have Tourette syndrome. And so I created this device to basically help them with it as a treatment method.
Okay. I mean, that's a little more specific, and it's specialized. So it may not be something that you would get a lot of good data from on just a sort of public search engine. I have to think about the best way for you to gather information on that, but certainly I would think starting with speaking with healthcare providers and other people in that field to see how big of an issue it is. And I'm sure you could find sort of data around Tourette syndrome and how many people it afflicts. And like, you could also see what they're doing now to help these people and kind of get some really highly specialized feedback from people who are involved in that field. But in terms of everyday consumer kind of products, I think these mostly Google analytic tools that are, some of them freely available, you can see how often and what types of searches people are plugging into search engines to look for products that your problem solves. So that's really how I did that. It's interesting because a lot of people will say, well, if there is something on the market similar to what you've done, that's a bad sign. I actually see it the other way. If there are some things on the market that try to address the issue that you have, then that's a sign that those people have also probably done their research. And especially if there's reviews for those products, you can learn so much about how that product did or didn't solve that consumer's problem. And you also see that it is a problem if people are buying it, because people won't buy it unless there's an actual problem. It's one thing for someone to say, oh yeah, that's a cool idea. It's another person for them to open, another thing for that person to open their wallet and spend money on it. So if there are other products like it on the market, you can say to yourself, all right, cool, this is an issue. Other people are buying it. And then you try to see how yours is better, different, building a better mousetrap kind of thing. So that's really, I've done most of my research online to try to answer your question around just, search habits. Amazon is so huge for that, looking at reviews and that type of thing. So that's really what I've been doing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Great question, Ranjit. Ranjit, Lexa was hoping you were making just a new teapot or something. She wasn't ready for that kind of thing. That's an awesome product, though, Ranjit.
It
really
is.
Cool.
I mean, talk about something that is critically necessary. So I good luck with that. But I would start with like a hospital or a healthcare provider if you know one personally, and you can start to drill down. Again, you can use the web to find those people, and I bet anybody would get back to you. You're like someone who's creative and ingenious. You put together this product. You're young. I mean, I would think most specialists would get back in touch with you and give you their advice. So reach out. The worst that happens is they ignore you, and I doubt that'll happen.
And
Great,
Lexa, how about organizations that would support Tourette's? They
100%.
might also have information because they're probably used to referring people to different solutions. So they might be another place to start.
Sure. There might be an association representing, like what Juli says, or organizations or nonprofits. Absolutely. That's a great place to start.
I don't think that, into Lex's point about, reaching out to people, I have a collection of rejection letters as tall as I am, and I'm not that tall, but it's still a big stack. You can't ever be afraid of rejection. You really can't. You're going to have skin like a crocodile, and to be, you won't get to where you want to go if you're going to delay or stop because maybe somebody was not as nice to you as you thought that they may be. So just put it aside and keep going. And don't let somebody else guide your future, except if they're giving you good information about which direction to go in, just on being, I had my first taste of, I didn't know what planned obsolescence was when I was meeting with an investor. And when I made my first product, and I said, well, I don't know what that is. What does that mean? He goes, well, when's it going to wear out so people buy more of them? My very first product. And I go, well, no, I made it really well. Not thinking that he's asking me, are they going to buy one every day or one every 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
So taught me a valuable lesson about finding out more than, and that was very early on in the process of my first product, is that know your audience. When you're going to ask someone or knock on their door or call them or email them, know who they are, know what they do. And if you show when you're for your ask, there's always an ask in life. And how you ask sometimes is very important for someone getting to open up that door, answering your call or things like that. Even if the call is just to say, you know, I really like what you're doing. I can't help you, but here's Carmine's name. And they send you in another direction like that. And that is as valuable as a call if as a person helping you with what you ask for. If they say, you know what, they refer you to somebody who has the answer. So don't be afraid of no. Just write no on wherever you look at all the time, and it's just two little letters. Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, good point, George. And it's a numbers game. What you'll find out is there'll be so many no's before you get a yes. So as soon as you start getting those no's, you're working closer to a yes. And you got to remember that if people didn't say no, their yeses wouldn't be worth anything. So you are going to hear that. Yeah,
One other thing to add is, where are you guys located? The two of you guys. Ranjit, where are you?
I'm in the Seattle area.
Yeah. I don't know if there is an inventor club.
Sorry.
Is there one, Carmine? I'm not sure that there is an inventor club in Seattle, but I'm sure a lot of their meetings are probably live streamed. Where I'm going is, if you go onto the UIA website, uiausa.org, there's a map on there that shows you where your local Inventor Association, which is a group of volunteers who help inventors take the next step with their product. There's also SCORE, that's a division of the Small Business Administration, and there's also pro bono attorney assistance that's there. These are all great and free resources for people like you. It doesn't matter that you guys are young. You guys could easily show up to one of those meetings and you would have a whole host of other inventors who have probably faced some of the same, who have definitely faced the same challenges as you, and they can give you face-to-face advice. Or if you can't get to the meetings, you can at least Zoom in and ask these same questions. The more, you're just in the data collection stage right now, the more you can gather information wise, the better. And then you can start to map out your own particular path.
Good point. Good point, Lexa. Hey, Casey, do you have a question for George?
Well, yeah.
I'm here. I'm sorry.
My question is, so how do you get local stores to buy your product and just sell it in them?
I'm glad you asked George about that.
Yeah, the very first, all the three of the products, the two that I created and the one with Al, Kettle Pizza, again, about knowing your audience, that's very important. We went to trade shows, the National Hardware Show, the Lawn and Garden Show, to find, and we were kind of caught in the middle at the time, is how were we going to sell our product? That was the first question we're going to do. Now I'm dating myself here. I know it's hard to believe with the age of you, but I did things before Google and before Amazon and the internet. Everybody thought it was just something Star Trek did with things like that. So, but it hasn't changed about finding the right audience, which will kind of guide you. Many retailers, because we were new, Kettle Pizza was very new, thought it was a unique item to bring into their product line, especially if they sold grills, especially if they were a company that was selling accessories for a backyard and things like that. Everybody wanted to have their own pizza oven, but didn't want to spend a lot of money to do that with building them themselves. One of the first retailers that we had was Crate and Barrel. And that we were at a show, and the young lady who was the buyer, I remember like it was yesterday, she put her card down on our table and said, this product should be in crate and barrel. Well, being a male, not ever stepping foot in crate and barrel or knowing how it was, I immediately went after the show when I got home and went into several crate and barrels to see what they sold and how they sold it, which was crucial because I wanted to see what she saw in the fit of it was. And then when I found out what a high-end retailer crate and barrel was, I know that she looked at our product as a well-made, high-quality product that should be in the stores where she looks for products. So that gave me some other good information of what kind of stores to look for. Crate and Barrel is a high-end seller of products. So I said, wow, that says a lot that she thinks that. And that kind of guided me to where we could partner up with places that sold grills, sold charcoal, and try to match it up from there. And one of the best things, as what's happened, I think, for younger entrepreneurs, is the internet and social media that can get your product into more people very quickly. And reviews, the organic reviews for Kettle Pizza came back from day one as a high quality product, that it did what it said it was advertised, cook a pizza in 7 or 8 minutes and get to temperatures 700-800. And we just kept building on that momentum organically. One of the things also that was key is that we had some people that actually, Matt Frampton, who has started his own pizza business with Urban Slice of Pizza, he started taking it around to barbecue events around the Midwest and started cooking pizza, because barbecue events, they're cooking chicken and meat all weekend and they wanted to eat something else, and they started using it. So that opened up Kettle Pizza to a whole nother world of backyard cooking.
Wow.
So organically, if the customers kind of came by to us other than retailers, we went the regular route: Walmart, Ace Hardware, Crate and Barrel. We had some of the top retailers buy from us and sell Kettle Pizza, but some were better than others. Kettle Pizza, as you can see that set up right there, that's a Weber grill with the stainless steel insert on it. That's how it best that we found that it would sell in stores, not in the box that's right behind it. You know how many calls I would get and saying, how did you get that grill in that little box over there? And we'd have to tell them, no, it doesn't come with the grill, it comes with the insert. So that taught us again to make sure that when we were marketing it, grill not included. Somebody would be waiting for the next box to arrive and said, where's my grill? And we learned that early on for that. So for us, it was a lot of organic selling. There were a lot of mistakes we made in areas that we did try to market Kettle Pizza. It was a product that really had to be demonstrated. So we didn't do very well in putting advertisements in magazines, because then you run the risk of somebody's got to turn that page, see your product, call you up, and that's a lot of work to do that. So social media wise, I'm sure you're skilled at it, but for product development now and finding your customers, it's so much easier than it is. Finding the customer, the right customer is key, and getting that customer to talk about your product to others is really the gold in the sauce right there. That is the key, because there's nothing like word of mouth to get the next person to buy your product.
Yeah.
I hope that was helpful.
Yeah. Super helpful, George. I have Ranjit has a question for Lexa.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, Could you just explain why you decided to go with licensing instead of manufacturing?
Yeah, I consider both paths at the beginning. I feel like for me, sometimes the product will dictate what you do, and sometimes the inventor will dictate what path is best. And for me, it was for this product, again, this is my first product that I'm really trying to take to market. It just makes sense for me personally, because my interests lie in coming up with ideas, prototyping them, trying them, figuring out all the snags and like the advantages and disadvantages and the market and what makes sense. And then I love the idea of someone else managing inventory, marketing, distribution, all of that. It's just, it's not where my skill set lays, and it's not my interest either. So I feel like it was driven in large part by what I wanted to do. Now, I think there are going to be some products where you in general might be interested in either path, and then maybe the marketplace will dictate what makes most sense. A lot of times, these big box stores and other stores won't take on, they call it a single SKU inventor. They won't just take on one product. You have to have like a portfolio of products. So it may make sense in that case to license and get a few under your belt, and then you can take one to the market directly. There's tons of exceptions to that rule, especially now with the internet, with social media. People can go viral with a product who are brand new to inventing. So you certainly don't pigeonhole yourself. But I would, to answer your question, I would just say for me right now at this stage in my life, I am much more interested in. I have like 25 other ideas that I think about, and one of I'm actively working on 2 or 3 of them. I'm just interested in that. I'm not interested in the other side quite as much, except for hopefully the money that it makes. I'm interested in that part, but only if someone else is doing it. So
To Lex's point, and speaking from the manufacturing side, who has brought the products the other way, licensing was always hoped for and paralleled with us possibly. You're not going to really license a product unless it has a little history to it. Little, if you sold some, is always good. Strong intellectual property is the key.
Yeah.
To getting a licensing deal. The entity that wants to go forward with your product wants to know that they're going to be able to make it for as long as possible without competition. But as everyone knows, Kettle Pizza, we were knocked off 6 months after we came to market. And we did everything, every nut and bolt, stainless steel, boxes, everything. We did it all and sourced it all. But it's not necessarily a bad thing to be knocked off. Other companies don't knock off junk. If you get knocked off, that means you have something good and it's probably selling. If you don't have a patent, you'll get knocked out of the market pretty quick because they'll make one, 5 times less expensive, and you'll be gone from there. So securing intellectual property for one that you want to license is key, or a partner that has deep pockets and they can take the rest of the way. With your patent pending status, and maybe they pick it up. I found that companies really want you to do all the hard work for them first and hand them something that you have made successful. And then they'll ask you to just step out of the way so they can really make it successful. And Alexa's point, that is great. I remember my first product, getting my first royalty check was wonderful. It was a great feeling, but it lasted a couple of years instead of me thinking it was going to last 20 years, the life of my patent and things like that. So strike while the iron's hot. If you can get a deal, get a deal. If you, Lex's point about manufacturing, there are another 100 holes to step in when you manufacture your own product. There are, let's say, 50 holes to step in when you're trying to license one. Add another 100 to that when you go to manufacturing, and you'll see why, if you can get a good, strong patent for your product, prove the concept that some people will buy your product for a certain amount of money, have as much data if you can, and then to put yourself in a much better position when you go in front of someone who's going to be licensing it, to start, you've checked off all those boxes that they would normally want to check off if they were developing a product themselves, and you've just handed them something that they can make very successful on a larger scale.
Well, the cool thing also is, like with licensing, if the company you license, sometimes you license, this is what I understand from talking to other inventors, you license something and you get out of the way. That's not super interesting to me for some of the products I'm working on, because I would like to be somewhat involved. A lot of them want you to stay on and be involved in some sort of an advisory capacity. And in that way, they're essentially paying you to learn about the stuff you don't yet know about, like the distribution, the marketing, the inventory. So I think that's valuable that way. Those guys presumably are pros at doing that kind of stuff. You can take this great idea. I mean, yes, you're not taking as big of a chunk of the profits, but you're learning so much from experts on the stuff that you might not know so much about. And like George said, there's so many potential pitfalls. So it's that's another thing that's attracted to me about licensing, at least in these kind of my first few products.
Yeah, that's good. And licensing frees you up to do other ideas.
Yeah.
So,
Fun.
yeah. So I think Casey, did you have another question?
No.
Oh, okay. All right, good. George, I want to ask you one thing real quick. Bringing a product to retail, a lot of people, myself included years and years ago, thought like it was the end all, like, oh my God, I made it. But what a lot of people don't realize is retailers add a significant amount of work on, right? And other obstacles.
Again, they're going to give you space for your product to sell itself, because they're going to then request for all sorts of accommodations, monies to push your product, to help sell your product, stock your product. Having it in let's say on a retail shelf is just work that I'll never want to do again, because what you find out quite quickly is that if your product doesn't sell, and you haven't made prior arrangements for the company with your product, they're going to put it on a pallet, they're going to ship it back to you, and they're going to not pay you for the ones that, and ask for the money back that they didn't sell, and ask you to pay the shipping for your product to ship back for you. And that's going to be the end of your product in that store. So getting it on a retail store or any kind of retail, whether it's you're hanging something on a clip at the point of sale of a cash register, having an entity to work that for you costs money. You're not going to be able to manage all those. We had sales reps that was very difficult to do. That's why the model shifted for us, is that some retailers, so people could see our product, because our product needed really to be demonstrated, and then selling it by our own website or selling it with online through Amazon. So there's all different sorts of retailers. So look at your product. Is it a real big product? Is it heavy? Is it going to require special packaging? I remember going through the process when we were about to appear on Home Shopping Network. You had to attend 2 days down in Florida at HSN to learn about how to do business with them. And or you weren't ever going to get on TV. So that is very important. And then they don't sometimes buy your product, enough of it, they want you maybe to still ship it for them, to drop ship your product, which is another way for, do a lot of promotions for a company, but you still have to ship it to them. You might not make as much money as if you're selling it directly to self online. So there's a lot of different ways to sell. And I would advise to try to find the one with the least headwind that you can to get your product to someone. Getting on a store shelf is great, but only if it can be seen by consumers and you can drive them to that store to go to like an Ace Hardware and say that's where your product is. It's a long life to get to the point where somebody is recognizable your product in like an Ace Hardware or a CVS or someplace like that. It's still your responsibility to get the customer to that store to buy your product.
Wow. There's one thing we didn't really talk about. We only have a few minutes left. And Lexa and or George could throw this in. I don't know if any of the other viewers have questions, but George, how did you come up with the price for your product? Did you just think this is how much it costs, let's charge this, or was it iterations or trial and error?
With my first product, I learned that for what I thought people would pay for my product and what they actually would pay for my product are two completely different things. So, the cost of goods you'll find of what it costs to make your product is crucial. If my very first product was, a way to apply insect repellent on people, I wanted to make it real well, wanted to make sure it didn't wear out. But, looking back on it, it needed to be made for $2 and sold for $10, the multiple of 4 or 5 times of what you make your product for. That's what retailers look at. If you're going to license something and they say, oh, you're selling it for $20 now. Well, they say, well, how much you making it for? Well, we're making it for $18. They're going to look at their watch and say, you know what, we got somebody else coming in. Thank you very much for coming. If you tell them you're making it for $2 and people are buying it for $20, they're going to offer to take you to lunch instead of looking at their watch. And that's very important. So, Carmine, to answer your question, it took a lot with Kettle Pizza, of finding, manufacturers of what we can make our product for. And then, because we were new, we weren't selling snow tires, and we had a completely different product in the market. And that was a very difficult thing for us to do. And again, where we were selling it dictated sometimes the price, whether we were shipping it for someone. That was a big challenge in trying to keep the margins where we could offer discounts where we had to, offer accommodations for marketing help from companies. So we worked on margins depending on where we sold it that were different. So we were always trying to work on Kettle Pizza, every component of it, from the box to the graphics to the instructions that we put on it, make it as first class as possible, because we were a premium product, with making sure that we weren't pricing ourselves out of the market and things like that. And your customer will be quick to tell you and show you when you're going to sell something, if they're buying it or not. And that's, again, a lot of research beforehand of sending it out to people and say, what would you pay for this? A lot of research that way. Is this a $200 item? Is it a $100 item? So that took a lot of work that way. And now, I don't want to say it, but if you keep in mind the multiple of 4 to 5 times of what you are making your product for, that's what typically others want to look at it, but that doesn't mean that someone's going to buy it for that. If you have a $15 product and you're trying to sell it for $35, you'll find out pretty quickly that it's a $15 item. And if you're making it for $14, you best maybe work on, finding somebody else to make it or something like that. Some of the best products in the world, I mean, not the best, there are a lot of products that never make it anywhere because the idea was great, solved some problems, but they couldn't get it to a manufacturing point where it could be of value to the consumer.
Yeah, or made at a good price.
Right.
Correct. All right, cool. Ranjit, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question for George. So how would you, so I know you said for pricing, you tried to have the rule of 4 to 5, but what about for markets in different countries that maybe on average, people would probably spend less for certain products? How would you decide on pricing then?
Spend less in another country?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's say that you had the capabilities to, I always advise people to try to sell their product at home first, so you can control it a little better on what people say about it. We had dealers in 12 countries. Sometimes by the time that we got Kettle Pizza to Australia, it was very difficult for the people in Australia to make money on our product because of logistics of getting it halfway around the world. So you have to really look at what's the value of selling in those other countries. It's such a challenge to get, say if you, when you made, like we did, we made products in the United States. Well, I don't think there's many bigger markets for products outside of maybe, China to sell things than in the United States. If you can sell your product just in the United States and do well with it, you're not going to have to worry about selling it in any other country. If you're making it so that it fits the market in another country, that becomes another challenge because you risk making a poor quality item for less money that doesn't work, might get bad reviews and things like that. And it's enormous amount of work to keep track of a product, even if you make it overseas somewhere and ship it to another country to sell it for less. There's a lot of management to that, of even making sure that what you made works. And anybody can sell junk. Anybody can sell junk. Making a premium product that you can be proud of, and people will pay money for good products. They absolutely will. And I prefer to concentrate on that end than now, can you make a product, your product less expensive so people can afford it in another one? Yes, you can. You won't make as much money on it. And if you're doing that for, say, reasons other than profit, maybe just for a charity or something like that, well, you can do that in another country, but that takes a lot of work. I would concentrate on the market of selling things in the United States. Making it overseas and selling it in the United States, that's another, I've been doing that for a long time, but managing that process overseas to make sure, we didn't want to take the risk when we had pizza stones that we designed ourselves for Kettle Pizza. We didn't want to take the risk of ordering 5,000 pizza stones from overseas and they coming to our factory for inspection and packaging and shipping, and 2,000 of them were bad, because that's a disaster.
And it could happen.
Because pizza stones, you can't run down the street to Ace Hardware and pick up a bunch of pizza stones to throw in your box to ship out. That happened to us with a manufacturer in the United States. We opened up all the pallets, and about a third of them had this nice red streak down the middle of the pizza stones. And the manufacturer's telling us, hey, that's just from the machine. It's not gonna hurt anybody. Oh, really? So you think sending somebody a pizza stone, a high quality pizza stone with a red streak down it is okay? that they're gonna put a pizza on that, So, and pizza stones usually take 8 to 10 weeks to have made. So, try to control the quality of your product the best that you can, because that will determine very quickly whether you're going to have customers or not.
Wow. Wow. Hey, George, your product there, that thing generates some heat, right?
Yeah, we decided to go with, you got to cook a pizza hot and fast, opposite than smoking a product low and slow. So 7-8 minutes, you add hardwood to the charcoal, and you generate, 700-800 degree temperatures. Cook the pizza top and bottom at the same time. And then, funny story, Al and I, when we had the first kettle pizza, we were trying different foods in it because it became an oven. So you can cook anything outside, that you cooked inside in kettle pizza. And we were talking, shocking as and we were trying chocolate chip cookies. Well, because heat got up so temperature, we had what looked like hockey pucks inside the grill. And they were so hard. I mean, they looked like hockey pucks, but we know it worked. So people started cooking casseroles. They started cooking other things beside pizza in the kettle pizza because it was an oven. And that was something that we capitalized on with people as we went forward, that it was an oven and they could do different things with it. So sometimes, like I said, you think about your product doing one thing and somebody decides, oh, I can do this with it also. Take advantage of that when you can.
Yeah, I agree. That's a sign of a good product when people start finding other uses for it.
Yep.
Means that they're still using it and they're excited about it. So it's a very good point.
Yeah, if you get people to start buying your product after they've bought it for themselves, to give it for a gift for someone else, you've really done extremely well, because someone buys a gift for someone else. If it's something you've made and they call you up and say, well, I want to give one to my brother for his birthday or to my father for Father's Day because I have one and I love it. You can't get any greater testimonial for a product than that, because they're giving something that they have that they're speaking for now, someone they're going to see all the time, and they want to make sure that they enjoy the gift as much as you've enjoyed it yourself.
Wow. I told you, Julie, this is awesome, right? Look at all these points, these good points.
I know. I could keep asking questions all day too. I know we have a time limit, but this is wonderful.
That's great. So Lexa, real quick, what's happening with your product? What's the next steps for your product?
I'm sort of talking to this one company. I think it's a really good fit. That I just sort of, there's a lot of kind of, hope this doesn't turn people off, but you got to kind of cold call and as much as you can use hot connections through people, that's great. But sometimes you just got to pick up the phone and call people. And that's what I did with this company, but it ended up sticking, and we've met once, and I'm looking to hear back from them again a little later in the month. So it's a slow process, especially for someone who's as impatient as I am sometimes. Yeah, so I'm looking to work with them, but I always have a backup plan, because I know nothing is set in stone until you have a signed contract and things are moving along. So I'm working on some marketing materials for the product, and another video that I'm going to maybe put on social media. So I'm trying to get lots of different angles going at one time. And that's sometimes what you have to do. Sometimes some of the things you do won't work, but it's interesting what I've gotten to the stuff that does work by making mistakes. I know it may sound trite, but it really is the case. You find things that work in the strangest places by doing stuff that you're sure is going to work, but doesn't work. And then it brings you to something else. So I would just encourage you guys to just keep being, you're just as creative with your marketing and sales effort, or you should be, as you are with inventing the product. You just got to think about how to get it in front of the right people and as many people as you can.
Wow.
I'm trying to talk Lexa into sending me one of the prototypes. I have so many sisters, that we can each take a week and then we could be testimonials for it. I'll try it.
Okay, you got it. You got it.
I had one of Lexa's when I was testing it out, and I went to the store and I had people stop while I was packing up the back of my truck and ask me where I got it from. It was pretty cool stuff,
Nice.
you know. Real quick, Lexa.
Nobody will sell, or if you don't have passion in your voice like Lexa just did about her product, when you're presenting it to someone and you want them to buy into what your vision is, they'll know it right away. Be passionate to the core when you present it. They'll hear it in your voice. They'll read it in an email. They'll, see it in others. So be passionate about it.
Oh, you guys too.
No one will know your product better than you.
Yeah, and you guys have nothing to lose. Like, presumably you're not doing this in order to pay the bills. Hopefully your parents are doing that. So just, it should be fun. I mean, you're doing such cool stuff. You're doing stuff that most people your age wouldn't even dream about. You're actually doing it. I just think it's neat to be involved in this space as young as you guys are. I think it's really admirable, and I'm happy to answer any questions you can. I know George will, after this meeting is over, we'll give you our email addresses, connect you with people that you can be connected with to take it's an adventure, like take the journey a little bit further each time. It should be fun, and I hope you guys are having fun with it.
And Lexa and I and Carmine and people that work through the UIA, we're gonna point you in the direction of people that we know, that we have vetted, that we know that how they do business, how they conduct themselves, how they present themselves to others. Because in this business that you're about to launch yourselves into, I would be remiss in not telling you, this is not for everyone. Lexa says about having fun. Yes, this is the time to have fun. This is the time to learn as much as you can.
Yeah.
Because there will be, at times, there'll be so many people with trying to get their hands in your pocket to take your money. You won't be able to get your own hand in there to get your own money out of there. We're going to send you to people who do business the right way, that our name is attached to, and which is very important. Keep close to the UIA and the people that come through the UIA that have been vetted by others. It will save you a lot of time and a lot of grief when you can find people like-minded who are there to help you, not there to take from you.
No, good point, guys. Good point. All right. Any more questions? We're going to close the show up. I love this. I mean, an hour has gone by already. It's unbelievable. So
thank you very much for having us on, Carmine and Julie, and to you two also. You're the future. You're the future innovators and inventors of the world. So be bold.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Ranjit,
George, and Lexa
Casey,
both.
Thank you. Yeah. Lexa, George, thanks for coming on. Some great questions. Julie, as usual, Innovation World, thanks for hosting this with the Youth Innovation Series. This is show 3 of 5. Real quick, Julie, what's up with the next show? What's going on?
Chris Guerrera. Is that how you say his name? Guerrera?
Oh,
and I think Chris has a fantastic Shark Tank story. I think he's got a good tale to tell, and the success that has come from all of that. So we're excited about that next week as well.
Excellent. Yeah. Sounds good. All right.
Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening out there. If you would like to, please go on out to YouTube, our UIA TV channel. Make sure you subscribe. Visit Julie at innovationworld.org. We love doing these shows. We'd love to hear from you. And till next Thursday, as Julie said, we will talk to you soon. You all take care.